IOTA DLS. Let's give it a try. Welcome to the Flybubble Paragliding channel.
We are free flight experts and equipment specialists helping you get the best flying experience.
Well, I've just landed after a really nice cross-country flight. Yeah, really good test of the IOTA DLS. So I've gotten to know it really well, how it handles, how it flies, how it launches. So I'll be able to give good insight into the glider and what it's like. The new IOTA DLS. What does that stand for? It stands for Durable Lightweight Structure. They're claiming is that the glider is almost as light as a lightweight glider, which it is, and compact. It's an important point. It's not just about weight, it's also about the compactness. But Advanced claim that with the IOTA DLS that the longevity is as good as a standard weight glider. It definitely does feel like a lightweight glider carrying it around, but also on launch and in the handling feels more like a lighter glider, but not quite as light as the super light glider, so I didn't have it lifting up and blowing around in the wind quite as much. But the durability, well, time will tell. We shall see. The IOTA DLS inflates really easily. The glider fills up with air really quickly because the sails are not as small as for some gliders. Once you've lifted the glider up and got it going, it wants to just come up to fly, so you don't need to give it, in fact you don't want to give it a bit too much of a pull on the risers, because then it will tend to come up a bit quick, especially at the top, and maybe pluck you off the ground a little bit if you're too heavy-handed. So it doesn't need that. In fact, I tried launching even without the risers when the wind wasn't very strong, and just to pull back, and the glider came up then kind of in a nice steady arc, and it didn't drop back like some gliders would have just gone and dropped back. It just carried on coming up. The bit at the top, the glider then has a little bit of a tendency to then bite in and come to fly. So you just need to then be ready on the brakes to catch that. Launching in a nil wind, trying out when there was no wind, just trying out some forward launches, which unfortunately I didn't video, but the glider inflates very solidly, and the whole glider wants to come up as a uni block, as the whole wing, rather than the tips coming up or just the middle or something like that. You know, watch our videos on launching in a strong wind. You can feel the glider doesn't sort of surprise you. It's transmitting to you what it's doing. Straight away on the ground, the glider feels very taut and solid, right across the wingspan, the tips as well. The tips are maybe slightly softer, but they're pretty well pressurized. Some gliders in the high B class are more dampened and soft. So this is, yeah, a little somewhere in between, a little bit more on the taut and solid side. Brake length, I'd say, is kind of medium to slightly long. So the brake pressure is definitely not a short brake pressure, and it's not very long. Responds nicely to weight shift, and very positively to the controls. A feeling of precision with the glider. It's a taut feeling, not rigid. It's kind of tight. Feedback, as I flew out and as I've been flying in some turbulence, it's not very feedbacky, not as the most feedbacky, that is a word, by the way. And even in small punchy climbs, I could really feel where the lift was nicely through the wing and the risers, through my brakes. So I was able to adjust very quickly to where the best part of the lift was. I felt overall the performance felt very good. Good climb rate, and in terms of the glide and speed, all felt very good for the class. To me, it seems like the IOTA DLS is a real all-rounder. Big ears were very easy to identify and pull in. The pressure was kind of moderate, wasn't high, wasn't very light, and I felt like I did need to hold them in. If I let go they would start to come out on their own after a bit, but it wasn't kind of like I had to really hold on for them and they went cutting into my fingers. It was quite easy to hold the big ears in. So on the ground, I'd describe the IOTA DLS. It's playful, it's not super dynamic or super agile or anything like that, but it's certainly not dampened and boring. It's a good balance, reassuring, calm, predictable, precise. You really feel in control of the glider. And for a high B wing, the ground handling I'd say is pretty easy. Pilot demands are relatively low in the high B class. So the stall point is very predictable. For general handling, the brake pressure is, I would describe as light to moderate brake pressure in the part that you mainly use. But then as you get down towards the stall point, the brake pressure increases quite significantly. It's not really heavy or anything, but considering how light the brakes are in the sort of general handling area, there's quite an increase of brake, which makes it really clear where you're approaching the stall point. There's quite a lot of resistance to the stall. It's very clear. The glider is definitely for a high B, I'd say it's relatively on the resistant side for the stall point, so that's good for safety. But on the other hand, flying in a strong wind, when I've really wanted to get the glider down, then I haven't had a problem stalling the glider down. So I seem to have that balance about right. So it's neither too easy to stall nor too hard. It's kind of a right sort of level for that. Here's a view of the risers. Red markings on one side, blue on the other side to show left and right. So 20mm ront stand pulleys, very nice to see. That's part of the reason the speed system feels so light. Covered in these nice neoprene socks, just keep everything covered up and stop the lines getting caught on them. That's the idea. You can see there's a nice neoprene sleeve all the way up. This part of the riser going to the A's, split A's. So there's the rear riser, and this is the BC connector system here. So this is how they've done it. So in here there's a Dyneema line. Inside here they've still got the riser, so they haven't gone for replacing the B riser completely with the Dyneema cord like some have. It's kind of a less complicated system than some of them. Basic kind of hardcam pulley in there. So yeah, using the BC system, it was typical along the lines of these kind of systems that keep the riser and have the Dyneema line added as an extra. Slightly more fiddly to use than the systems which have replaced the B riser completely with a Dyneema line. A similar sort of pressure, a little bit heavier than those systems, but actually it was a bit lighter than your average of this kind of system, I felt. So it was kind of a moderate pressure, whereas most of these BC systems I find are kind of a bit on the sort of moderate to heavy side of it. The brakes come with standard with magnets on them. They're kind of magnets with little ridges on them, so the magnets stay quite nicely in place. And they've got the rigid part in here, which is nice to handle for both putting your hand through or doing the half thing when you grab it and half round. Yeah, they seem to work pretty well. All the main lines are unsheathed all the way up, so the mains are unsheathed. If you feel them, they've got a kind of slippery, waxy feel to them. The brake line is sheathed, of course, because that goes through the pulley here. So they tend to sheath that just to keep it more protected. The advance with the construction of the IOTA DLS have definitely gone for a construction that's less kind of like heavy. These have got a good stiffness to them, but they're not as rigid as some of them are, which probably also makes it better for packing. So you can see, looking along the leading edge with this twin construction with the rods here, which you can see the rods finished, the leading edge rods finished there, so they're not as long as some. So looking at the materials, you can see that the lower surface is made out of a lighter, slinkier material. At the tips you have the usual kind of buttholes that's seen on many gliders, just for clearing debris that goes through to the tip. Here's a brake line attachment point with the reefing system that you have on many gliders. I did a number of collapses. So the IOTA DLS for a high B, the behaviour that I saw with both symmetric and asymmetric collapses was very good. Now I think there's a big difference with the IOTA 2, which I felt was a bit more towards the higher end of the high B class. The reactions were more dynamic, and the IOTA DLS seems to be significantly more benign and forgiving, more comfortable and easier to manage, requiring lower pilot demands to fly in active air and in SIV manoeuvres. All in all, I think my summary of the IOTA DLS, having flown it now in a whole variety of conditions, everything from just smooth soaring to light scratchy conditions to windy, gnarly conditions, quite strong thermic conditions on cross-country flights. I think I describe it as an all-round high B wing. Performs very, very well. It's one of the top performers in the class from what I can see. Climbs really well. The handling is very nice, very pleasurable. It's precise. The brakes are light. Speed system is very light and effective. The glider feels very solid across the whole sail. Really taut. Got a good level of feedback. Pretty good agility and very precise feeling. Very comfortable. In terms of construction, when you look at the glider in detail, the construction is beautiful. Just looks so well made. The stitching and all the details. So I just think it feels like a really good all-round pleasurable glider that you're going to be really happy to go out and fly with regularly. I think this is a glider that's going to make lots of pilots very happy. Woohoo! Well, I hope you enjoyed this review of the advanced IOTA DLS. If you like the video, hit that like button. You know you want to, you've got to do it. It's not flyable anymore. What do? Go and play on the kids' swings.